Morning and welcome to Coffee Talk, the July 2021 edition. We are so pleased to have you with us this morning, and we've got a full house for our show. I'm Susan Katzman, and I welcome you here along with Lisa Gubernick, the other half of the SNL team here. And as always, we thank Heather Liphart and Brooke Wallace for their work behind the scenes in the production room. We need to spend a lot of time on this morning's program, so I'm not going to say too much more, except that Elisa and I started Coffee Talk over a year ago as a way to connect people during the pandemic and to build membership for NCJW. And here we are 12, 13 months later, still going strong, thanks to all of you. So we are happy to have you with us this morning. We have a special presentation this morning. We're so pleased to welcome back Dr. Harley Hammerman. Also with us today is Chef Scott Phillips. Harley, as many of you know, is a radiologist and an entrepreneur who started Metro Imaging with other radiologists in 1994. On the side, he collects historical memorabilia, including those from long gone, beloved restaurants in the St. Louis area. Those vanished restaurants, their menus, their signature dishes, and most of all, their memories, have captured the attention of thousands of current and former St. Louisans who visit Harley's Lost Tables and Lost Dishes websites. Now, and we like to say because of Coffee Talk, you can even follow Harley in the Jewish Light newspaper weekly. You will see shortly pictures of both Harley and Chef Scott Phillips. This is from the Working Women Show. Chef D. Scott Phillips is president of Food Service Consultants, a local management company. He is an award-winning executive chef from such places as Balaban's, Provisions, and the Cooper Hotel System. Trained at Johnson & Wales, he has lived and cooked in New York, New Orleans, Rhode Island, and Mississippi. You may also have had Scott's food at the Inn at St. Albans, where his French toast and fried chicken were very popular. We are told he uses lemon juice in his fried chicken, but few people could get the recipe. Maybe, Scott, if you have a minute, you can share that secret. When Harley turned 70, his wife, Marlene, worked with Chef Phillips to create a special family dinner of some of Harley's favorite lost dishes. Today, we will learn about those dishes, the history behind them, and how Chef created them. Let's spend about 35 minutes with the presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions. Feel free to put your questions in the chat or hold them until later, and Lisa will call on you to ask them. Enjoy and bon appetit. Harley and Scott, thank you. We turn it over to you.
All right. Everybody see my desktop?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. How about that?
Adorable.
So Susan and Lisa usually start these sessions with a baby picture of the participant. Sorry, Scott, I don't have your baby picture.
That's okay, Harley.
This is me, probably around 1 year old. If my mother's on here, she could tell me the exact day. And somehow on July 22nd in 2019, all of a sudden I was 70. I'm not sure how that happens, but as Susan said, in honor of my 70th birthday, Marlene decided to give me a birthday party for the family. My mother, our kids, our grandkids, but it wasn't just any birthday party. She decided to give me a Lost Dishes 70th birthday party. So for those of you that don't know what Lost Dishes is, it's the companion website to my Lost Tables website. Lost Tables website, I write about lost restaurants. And I decided to have another website where I collected the signature dishes and put the recipes online for all of those. There's well over 200 recipes on there now. You can look at it sort of like a normal cookbook by appetizers and entrees and salads and whatever, or you can click on the Lost Dishes by Restaurant, and there's an alphabetical listing of the different restaurants with the different lost dishes underneath. So what Marlene did was she looked at all these recipes and came up with a menu, and she actually presented me this menu in this beautiful gold frame the morning of the party. But a menu is no good without a chef to execute it. Marlene could have executed it, but she wanted to enjoy the party, so she enlisted Scott Phillips to be her chef. I first met Scott at Provisions Gourmet Market in Creve Coeur. My West County Metro Imaging site was around the corner, and I used to go there for lunch all the time. And then Scott and I crossed paths again when he was the executive chef out at Balaban's, out on Clarkson Road. And in February of 2019, Scott was asked to do a cooking demonstration for the Working Woman Survival Show out in the St. Charles Convention Center. And he asked me if I would do a Lost Dishes presentation with him. My presentation was talking. He did all the cooking. I don't do any cooking. I just do eating. But it went really well. We had a great time. And so it was sort of natural for Marlene to ask Scott to come to our kitchen and do the cooking for the birthday party, which he graciously did. And here he is the afternoon of the party getting ready. He's going through the Lost Dishes recipes there and all set to go. So back to the menu. The first item on the menu was that Marlene picked out was the Maryland crab cakes from Crazy Fish. So Crazy Fish might not be as memorable to some of you as some of the other restaurants we're going to talk about, but Crazy Fish opened in 1993 in Clayton on North Meramec. This is the building that it opened in, and it's right next door to Timekeepers, which is still there. It was the creation of a guy named Chris LaRocca, who may also not be known to most of you, but his parents had a restaurant in North County called LaRocca, and you kind of know his current restaurants, most of you, because he's the one that blocking on the name of the one, the Red, what's the name of his restaurant? Red something or other, Crushed Red. He's done all the Crushed Reds in the St. Louis area. So he's done a lot of restaurants, and he was the one that first did Crazy Fish. He had a second Crazy Fish location that he opened out in Chesterfield on the Chesterfield Parkway on the outskirts of Chesterfield Mall. This had been Yenching's beforehand, and so he had a Crazy Fish there. Here's the Crazy Fish menu. Basically, it was a lot of crazy fish, some unique fish preparations. One up there is the shrimp and voodoo pasta. It was really a neat restaurant with really fun preparations. And their most popular appetizer was the Maryland crab cakes. So here's the Maryland crab cake recipe on the Lost Dishes website. And tell us about it, Scott.
Well, that's an awesome recipe, actually. There's a lot with Crazy Fish. There was a lot of adaptations to like original recipes, I guess you could say. Maryland crab cakes are pretty standard. They're very basic, primarily seasoned with Old Bay seasoning. At Chris's restaurant, Crazy Fish, they added jalapeno cream to it, which really put a nice twist on it. I really like that recipe.
All right. In the recipe, there's a jalapeno cream, so the recipe is all on there. And so these are the crab cakes the night of the party. Those crab cakes don't look like the ones in the picture, Scott. How come?
Okay, so here's what we did. For your party, you had past appetizers to start. So a traditional crab cake, if it was sauteed in a skillet, it would be too loose to pass and pick up and eat. So what we did, we followed the recipe exact, but we put a panko breadcrumb on the outside to secure it. And when we sauteed it, we used about a ½ inch of oil to kind of encapsulate the whole crab cake. So that way you could walk around the room and pass it. But the same recipe.
And here, who's that guy passing the?
That's Scott Kriedemeyer. He's currently the director out at the Inns of St. Albans with me.
And the lovely young woman who is receiving that crab cake, I'm sure everybody knows, is my daughter-in-law, Amy. So, all right, on to the next past appetizer. It was the spinach feta strudel from Duff's. So Duff's is probably more familiar to most of you. It opened in the Central West End in 1972 and didn't close all that long ago. It was started by Karen Duffy and her husband. Shortly after they opened the restaurant, the two of them got divorced, and Tim Kirby came on as her partner, and the two were partners ever since during the life of the restaurant. This is an early menu from Duff's. Basically, it started out with sandwiches and salads and some soups. The French onion soup was to die for. But with time, the menu grew, and early on, one of their signature appetizers was the spinach feta strudel. Looks yummy. What's that all about, Scott?
That again, that's an awesome recipe. I really enjoyed making that. In the restaurant, they presented it a little bit larger than what we did, again, because we were doing a past appetizer. But really nice. Feta cheese, spinach, I believe. I don't fully remember the recipe. That was a while back. But
there it is.
Okay, a little small. I'm doing this.
Okay. And it had the two different dipping sauces, or the sauces that were presented on top of it, the red pepper hummus and the tzatziki.
Right. Yes. Both great accompaniments to a dish like that. They really were. It was a lot of fun to make that one.
So here, these are the sort of mini strudels before they went into the oven. And then here's Scott plating them for passing. And here's what the plate looked like. You know a pro is doing this, because it never looks like this at home when you present something. And then here Scott number 2 is presenting it, and that's my grandson Masa, Zach and Amy's son, who is enjoying the last strudel. So then we all, along with the past appetizers, we also needed something to drink. So Marlene picked Mai Tais from Trader Vic's. Trader Vic's opened downtown in the Bel Air East Motel in 1972. It was opened by a guy named Victor Bergeron, who it was actually a chain. The first one was opened actually in the 1930s in Oakland. Victor Bergeron was Trader Vic. In addition to food, they had lots of exotic, crazy cocktails. This is a cocktail menu from 1965. Not only crazy cocktails, but crazy mugs that went with them. And one of their cocktails was a Mai Tai. He actually invented the Mai Tai in 1944 in Oakland. The Mai Tai recipe is on the Lost Dishes website. And basically, it's sort of like it's got two kinds of rum. It's got lime juice. It's got Cointreau, sort of like a margarita with the rum instead of the tequila. And then it's got this, it's called orgeat syrup, which is an almond syrup, which you find in a lot of tiki drinks. While Scott was busy cooking, we enlisted this mixologist. This is my son, Zach, who truly is a wonderful mixologist. He's got all kinds of stuff at home. And he made the Mai Tais for us. And they were absolutely delicious. I wouldn't mind having one right now. Actually, we could have everybody have Mai Tais for the who's online here. So it was time to all sit down at the table, and we all sat down for dinner, and there were more appetizers on the way. The first one was the Balaban smoked trout pancake. Balaban's also opened in the Central West End in 1972. A lot of great restaurants opened in the Central West End in 1972. It was opened by Herb Balaban, and at that time, his girlfriend, Adalaide Daley, but they soon married not too long after, and it was a fantastic restaurant. But they decided to sell the restaurant in 1986 and retire. They sold it to a guy named Tom Flynn and Steve McIntyre. That's a picture of Steve. Tom Flynn died tragically in a boating accident, and Steve decided to sell the restaurant, and it changed hands a couple times, and it was never quite the same, and then eventually became Herbie's. But Steve kept all the recipes, And in 2009, he reopened the restaurant out on Clarkson Road in Chesterfield. And it was there for a good 20 years. They sold it, good timing. They sold it right before the pandemic. Here's a menu from the Chesterfield location. All the same great recipes that were down in the Central West End. They had the cucumber bisque and the hearts of palm salad and the morel pasta salad and the, there was the, this great salmon recipe, barbecue spice salmon recipe. But one of the signature dishes was their smoked trout pancake with the horseradish creme fraiche. On the Lost Dishes website, there are actually two different recipes. One was by the chef David Timney, who came on board in the early 1990s and put the smoked pancake on the trout pancake on the menu. But then Steve McIntyre said that he actually had developed the recipe 30 years earlier for a Missouri Restaurant Association contest. So both of the recipes are on the website. Here's David Timney's and here's Steve McIntyre's. So how do the recipes differ, Scott? And which one did you use for my birthday party?
Okay, Harley. So we did this. This was part of one of our presentations at the Working Women's Survival Show. So what we did when Harley and I did that presentation, we actually made both recipes to kind of show the difference. And Harley and I both agreed we liked different components of each recipe. So for your event, Harley, we did Steve's trout mixture, and then we did David's pancake mixture. David's pancake, it's lighter and fluffier. The pictured item there is smaller. They were about 5-inch in diameter at the restaurants. I think that's about 1 inch or so. It's pretty small, or maybe 2 for your event. They're great recipes, both of them. Harley, you asked me which one I thought came first, and it's difficult to say, but Steve's recipe has a few more ingredients, seems a little bit more developed. So I would say that one came later in my professional opinion, but they were both fantastic. Yes, it was a lot of fun.
Here are the little mini pancakes with the trout on it. And they were absolutely delicious, just wonderful. There was one more appetizer to come, Portobella's grilled asparagus and portobello mushroom appetizer. Portobello opened in Clayton on North Central in 1994 in the building that had previously housed Port St. Louis. And it was opened by the Del Pietro family. The Del Pietro family initially opened Del Pietro's out of Watson and have since opened restaurants all over the place, most of which you know and you've been to, but one of the early restaurants was Portobello. Here's an early Portobello dinner menu. It was sort of a cosmopolitan sort of a menu. I remember one of the great entrees that was on the menu early on was the porcini encrusted sea bass, but their signature appetizer, which was on the menu day one, was their grilled asparagus and portobello mushroom with balsamic vinaigrette. So that recipe is here on the Lost Dishes website. Tell us about that, Scott.
All right, so in the picture of the item from the restaurant, that would be the top photo. They used a balsamic glaze in that. In your recipe, you have an actual vinaigrette. So that's what we made for your party. I think our picture's the bottom right. Beautiful recipe, very simple, a lot of fun, very refreshing. It's great for any type of event because, it doesn't fill you up. It just gives you a lot of flavor together.
Yeah, and here's a picture. I mean, it was just a gorgeous presentation, and it was delicious to eat. You wanted to, not only eat it with a knife and fork, but a spoon to get up all of that vinaigrette. It was delicious. Am I making everybody hungry? I hope so. All right. Now it was time for the entrees. The first entree was from Café de France. It was a salmon recipe. Café de France opened in the Merchants Laclede building on 410 Olive in 1979. It was sort of 2 blocks east and across the street from downtown Famous and Bar. You can see these red awnings here. That's where Café de France was. It was a wonderful restaurant. Marlene and I used to go there for special occasions, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, very romantic. We would also go there for lunch. I can remember going on snowy, cold, wintry days, and we would sit in there and have lunch, and it was wonderful. It was started by Monique and Marcel Keraval. Monique was up front and was the hostess, and Marcel was in the kitchen. And here's one of their menus. It was sort of a combination of classic and nouvelle French cuisine, and it was delicious. There's not a restaurant like that in St. Louis anymore. And one of the entrees on the menu was the pepilote of salmon. On this menu, it was with a red wine sauce. But another one of the recipes, which is the one on the Lost Dishes website, instead of a red wine sauce, it's topped with a salsa with a fresh tomato, basil, and balsamic vinaigrette. So tell us about the recipe and what is a pepilote? And am I even saying it right, Scott?
You are saying it correctly. It's basically what it is. Well, first, let me say this is a great recipe to try at home. It's real simple, great flavors. It's in Harley's on his website. Basically, what it is, it's steamed inside either parchment paper or foil. You put all your ingredients in there: the salmon first, salt, pepper, and a lemon. Then you encapsulate it in the foil or parchment paper and bake it. So it basically steams it. Really puts a ton of flavor into the fish. And then we top that one with the tomato, basil, and balsamic, like you said. It's really, really excellent dish.
Here's the recipe. So look at all that salmon. Where did you get all that beautiful salmon from?
I got that salmon from Bob's Seafood. I believe it's in Olivet. It's on Olive. Excellent product, always fresh. A little bit better. I think it's nice if you can find a place like Bob's. It's the freshest that we would be available to here in St. Louis. I think a little bit better than the grocery stores.
A plug for Bob's Seafood.
Bob's a great.
They deliver. They don't charge anything to deliver. They'll deliver $8 worth of mussels and not charge you for it. And their fish, I started eating more fish, and they started delivering during the pandemic, and I've become a fish eater now because their fish is that good. So if you've not gotten fish from Bob's, you should. It is wonderful. I think it's better than you get at the restaurants.
Yes.
So here is the finished preparation. It was yummy. And here's a picture of my mother enjoying her plated version. It was really good. The final entree we had that evening was the pepperloin steak from the Tenderloin Room. Some of these, quote unquote lost tables, you'll say, well, there's still a Tenderloin Room, Well, some of these restaurants have been reinvented, but they're really not the same as they used to be. In my mind, they're truly lost. The Tenderloin Room was at the Chase Park Plaza. It actually was on the ground floor of the Park Plaza. Here's the entrance. The Chase Park Plaza was built by Sam and his son Harold Koppler, and the Tenderloin Room was the creation of Harold. But it was really Harold's maitre d', Henry Hack Ulrich, that made it tick. Hack was wonderful, and everybody knew Hack who went to the Tenderloin Room, and he made it a very special place. The Tenderloin Room was basically a steakhouse. They had lots of different steaks on the menu, and they had some other items, as most steak restaurants do, but it was known for its steaks. And the pepperloin steak was its specialty. It was not just the pepperloin steak, but as Scott will tell you, it was this wonderful mustard sauce that was on it. Here's the recipe from the Lost Dishes website. But tell us about the preparation, Scott.
All right, so Marlene coached me quite a bit on this one. She makes it at home for you. I know that pretty frequently. Excellent dish, excellent. In there, one of Marlene's biggest tips was the marinating of the tenderloin itself. Lots of onions, lots of rock salt, and put it in a Ziploc bag. And Marlene does it for 3+ days. So that's what I did for your party. Turned out great. The tenderloin sauce, the mustard sauce actually, again, is Marlene coached me on that as well. There's a couple variations you can either use on your recipe. You can use a brown gravy or a demi. I used a demi because I work in a commercial kitchen, so it's accessible. At home, if you tried it, you probably want to use the brown gravy, any type, or make your own. The demi that we make, you start with 40 pounds of veal bone. It's not too practical in your house. You only wind up with a couple of quarts. So it was really a great recipe again.
So
And I'd like we did it justice for you, sir.
Oh, it was incredible. So this is a Ziploc bag with the tenderloin in it and all of and it just marinates in there and it soaks up all of the flavors. So this is a tenderloin that Scott had out on the grill. Where did the tenderloin come from?
Tenderloin, I actually picked up at US Foods. Great product. A lot of our grocery stores have it. Pretty expensive right now, but you can get it. That started as a whole Pismo. So I trim them. I lose about, right there, each of those weighs about 2.5 to 3 pounds. Starts at about 5.5 to 6. So you lose quite a bit. Pretty expensive to break it down.
So those are huge pieces of tenderloin. How did you cook them so perfectly?
Well, on your perfectly built fire on your grill. Yeah, so what you do, you just put it on there. You spread your coals out. We covered ours, Harley. You don't have to. Put it on there, low flame, covered, lifted it off. That's when you got the picture. Covered it back up. It cooked pretty evenly out there, much more evenly than I thought it would. Another way you could do it also, and I think we might have done this with yours, you can finish it in your oven as well. Once you get that flavor and the sear on there, you can take a 3-pound tenderloin just like that. If you put the marks on there, let it sit there, absorb the flavor, the smoke, you can finish it in your oven for about 25 minutes and it comes out perfectly. It's probably a lot more controllable that way if you had an event in your home. So you can, like I said, control the temperature, serve it a medium rare or medium, whatever you prefer.
And that's how it came out. And it was delicious. It cut like butter. It was wonderful. And here's a picture of Scott ladling on the mustard sauce. And here's the finished product. And this was sensational. It was wonderful. If you're not hungry now, you'll never be hungry. Well, all that was left was dessert. And for the dessert, it was a no-brainer for Marlene. My favorite dessert, and probably our favorite dessert of all time, was Cyrano's Cleopatra. Cyrano's opened in 1960 on Clayton Road. It was on the corner of Clayton and DeMunn. There's a bank there now. It was a European-style coffee house. It was in the basement. Upstairs was a place called the High Fidelity Showroom, and downstairs was Cyrano's. This door here on the side here is how you got in. And Marlene and I would go to the movies or a basketball game or whatever when we were dating in high school on a Friday or Saturday night. Then we'd go to Cyrano's, and sometimes they'd be lined out that door, and we would wait an hour, maybe an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours to get into Cyrano's. It was that good. It was started by a guy named John Marshall and his wife. They had the High Fidelity Showroom. He had always wanted to be a chef and open a coffee house. So that's when he opened Cyrano's down below. Unfortunately, the building there on Clayton and DeMunn burnt down in 1979, and he opened a second Cyrano's on South Big Bend, just south of Clayton Road, in this building. But they only stayed for a couple of years, and then they sold it, and then it got sold again. And each time it got sold, it became a little different, and it finally closed. And then this building turned into Harvest. A number of years later, Cyrano's resurfaced. It reopened out in Webster Groves. It's been there for a long time now, and has a good following. And some of the same things are on the menu. At least the names are the same. It doesn't taste the same. Anybody who grew up with the original Cyrano's on Clayton Road, the Cyrano's in Webster Grove, while it's good, it's not the same. Here's an original Cyrano's menu from 1970, and basically, again, it was a coffee house. Lots of coffees, lots of teas and cocos. there were a few sandwiches. They had a roast beef sandwich. It was to die for. We would go, Marlene and I, we would each get 2 orders. There was 2 roast beef sandwiches to an order. I would eat 3 of them. She would eat 1 of them. They had flambés, Cherries Jubilee, their World's Fair Eclair was special, but their signature dish by far was the Cleopatra, truly fit for royalty, and it was. Now this recipe is not on the Lost Dishes website because the recipe is basically the menu. It was basically it sliced bananas and strawberries on the bottom, and then we'll talk about this. It says French ice cream. It had a delicious sauce. It had 2 sauces. It had a rum sauce and a hard chocolate. It was gold brick chocolate. And then it had a whipped cream on top. There's some debate as to what kind of ice cream they used. It was Chapman's ice cream, but the question was it French vanilla ice cream or French coffee ice cream? The early menus just said French ice cream. But here's a menu from when Cyrano's moved over to Big Bend. And this one you'll see down here says French coffee ice cream. And then if you look at the menu from the current Cyrano's out in Webster Groves, it says French vanilla ice cream. Well, Marlene and I remembered it as French vanilla ice cream. So that's what we had for my party. This is what the Cleopatra at Cyrano's looks like. Again, this mound of whipped cream covering French vanilla ice cream and hard chocolate, strawberries, bananas, rum sauce. When we would order this at Cyrano's, Marlene would maybe take a little spoonful of the whipped cream and I would eat all the rest of the whipped cream. And then after a while, we started ordering it without whipped cream. Today, we would never do that. We would get the whipped cream today. Here's the gold brick that was ordered in. You can't get it. I think we got that online. And so here's what Scott's Cleopatras look like. They're smaller, Scott. What happened here?
Well, a lot of food at your party, so we made them a little bit more user-friendly for your event. But
Yeah.
that's an awesome recipe. Very simple too.
Yeah, it is good, and you know it's my favorite dessert of all time. It is sensational. So the night ended, and here are the 2 Scots that it was a sensational party. It was the best meal I've ever had and the best birthday party I ever had, and they did a sensational job. And actually, obviously, the woman who made it all possible was Marlene. She surprised me with this, and it was spectacular. And couldn't have wanted a better birthday party. So thank you, Mar. And that's it for our presentation.
Thank you. So I do want to keep it open for people to ask Harley or Scott questions. And I haven't seen anything in the chat yet, but I want to ask a question to Scott. Is there a favorite recipe that you like to make either for guests or for just at home?
I like anything that has spice. I'm a big fan of Cajun, Creole type food, and the French history that goes with it. So that's probably my go-to. No particular dish, just that general type food.
Okay. And there was a question to Harley. What are some of your current favorite restaurants in St. Louis?
Oh, there are a lot of restaurants. So there's a relatively new restaurant that I love. It's called the Lucky Accomplice, and it's down on Jefferson, just a bit south of the highway. The chef he used to have a restaurant called Savage, which was a small plates restaurant, and it closed with the pandemic, and he hasn't reopened it. But this place, he's just it's unique dishes, and it is really, really wonderful. Other ones that I like that have been around for a while, we love Napoli too. We go there a lot. We love going to Brasserie and Taste down on Laclede. We love the Sydney Street Cafe. That's good. Down the street from that is Peacemaker, which has wonderful, wonderful fish. There are a lot of good restaurants. I mean, sometimes we have trouble when we go out of town. We eat at a lot of restaurants out of town, and then we say, they're just as good in St. Louis. So we've got good restaurants in town here.
That's good to hear. Judy Scissors asked, where do you order the gold brick topping?
I don't know if Marlene's still on. I thought she just found it online.
You can actually order that on Amazon.
It's
They
probably
do.
Okay. Thank you. And Eunice Reichman asked, how do you make rum sauce? That's probably a question for Scott.
Okay, a lot of variations to rum sauce. Your best resource would probably be Google, but the one we did for Harley's, we used a cream reduction, and we added the rum and brown sugar to it. That's probably the simplest.
Okay. Thank you. And then I'll wait for more questions to come in the chat. If anyone has any, please put them in there. But, oh, here's another one. To both, what got you interested in food, cooking, and restaurants? Do you want to start that, Scott?
Well, sure. Went to college at Webster University. All through college, I worked in restaurants. That was not my intention to be a chef. It's just something I gravitated to. After Webster, I went to Johnson & Wales University, culinary arts school in Rhode Island, and just fell in love with it. I've never left. Only job I've ever had. It was just so, it's different every day. There's so much to it. It's logistics, cooking, skill, people. It's just such an awesome job. It's draws certain types of people, and I just happen to be one of them.
And you're out of town right now. Are you cooking? Are you doing something right now, Scott?
No, I'm actually in town. I'm leaving in about an hour, going to Hotel Hershey in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Are you doing any cooking, or you're?
I am not. It's a family vacation.
Okay. And Harley, what got you interested in food?
Well, Scott fell in love with cooking. I fell in love with eating. And growing up, my mother was a wonderful, wonderful cook. Back then, people cooked more basic foods, and I don't think, we didn't go out to eat as much then. But when Marlene and I started dating and then got married, we started going out to restaurants more and more, particularly even with the kids, we'd go out to eat a lot. And we'd not only go to restaurants in St. Louis, but whenever we traveled, I always tell people that we travel and we may have lunch and dinner reservations, and we kill time in between, because that's our main activity when we go out. We look for good restaurants to dine at, and in St. Louis it's the same thing. We always are trying the new restaurants, going back to favorites, and it's just Marlene's a wonderful chef at home, but it's nice to get out and not have to worry about doing the cooking and the cleanup.
Definitely. So there's a question about the temperature for baking salmon, and if you can offer that information, and then also what are the secrets to baking or grilling fish? This is something that I need help with.
Okay, so on the salmon temperature, if you do the wrapped version, you want to go about 400 for about 12 minutes. You need to create that steam and temperature to get that fish cooked. It'll come out about medium. If you're just going to put it in the oven, again, I would go 400, a little bit less time, depending on the thickness of the fish. Chefs tend to, at least I do, struggle with cooking at home because the equipment we use is so much different. The temperatures are hotter, the circulation of the air is faster, they're louder. They just function differently than they would at home. But 400 on most fish at home would be perfect, either gas or electric. Electric, you might want to go, you would want to go center on both. It's center rack in your oven. Most recipes would have that. And I find generally, if you have a properly working oven, they're pretty accurate, I think. In the second part of the question again was?
What are the secrets? Are there any secrets that you would offer for baking?
Okay. If you're going to pan sear or grill, you want the skillet or the grill to be hot. And that's the biggest secret. If it's not hot enough, your fish will stick. You want to get a firm fish if you're going to grill with, you know, like a rack. Any type of fish you can cook in a saute pan though.
And if you want to try a relatively easy salmon recipe, that's on the Lost Dishes website, Balaban's barbecue spiced salmon recipe is delicious and relatively easy to do. And Marlene makes it all the time. It's really, really good.
That's good to know. I need help with the fish department. Harley, there was a question. What is your favorite appetizer and entree from Lucky Accomplice and Peace Cafe?
Well, Lucky Accomplice, they change all the time. He's always changing it. So the first time we went, they had a toasted raviola, what's the singular? Raviola or whatever. It was a huge ravioli that the four of us shared. That was a fun appetizer. I can't remember all that they had, but we've been there twice and we're going again this Friday night, and every time's different. So, you know, you can't, everything's a favorite and you can't have it again because he changes the menu. Was there another, a Peacemaker, did he say?
Peace Cafe.
Pete's Cafe or Peacemaker? I don't know Pete's Cafe. I haven't been there.
And what is that Peacemaker?
Peacemaker is, it's on Sydney Street and it's a fish restaurant. It's like you're in the north east part of the United States. It's a wonderful restaurant, and I get the lobster roll there. The lobster roll is delicious. And also, what else did I get there? The lobster roll, and the oysters are really good. It's everything is really good there.
And Sandy Kaplan asked a question: what type of trout do you use for the smoked trout recipe?
Smoked trout, just rainbow would be the best. It's firm. When you smoke it, it holds together really nice.
Oh, I know. Also at Peacemaker, I was trying to think of, their clam chowder is the best clam chowder I've had in a long time, because I don't usually order clam chowder because it just tastes like soup with potatoes in it. And this was outstanding.
That's good to know. What is your go-to sauce for fish and for meat? That's
okay. I like simple. I prefer just maybe like a Bldg. It works with anything. You can flavor it any way you like. You can do like a lemon Bldg, citrus Bldg. And basically what that is, you just want to take equal parts, 2 ounces or 1 ounce, depending on how much you want to make, of heavy cream, and then an equal part of some type of stock. It could be, you could use vinegar, you could use lemon juice, you could use beef stock, lobster stock, chicken stock, anything you want. And beef does go well on fish, actually, if you put it on salmon. And then you're going to bring that to a boil, and you're going to drop in about a half a pound of butter. It's quite a bit of butter, but you stir that in, not overheat, so it kind of emulsifies. You actually have a creamy sauce. It's pretty light when you put it on there because it's thin. It rolls right off into the plate, but it's very versatile. It works great with all fish, I think.
And speaking of fish sauces, so before the pandemic and before Bob's, and when Marlene used to get fish from the grocery store, she'd put various sauces on the fish. For instance, we'd get swordfish, and she did an olive tamponade that she would put on it. But once we started getting the fish from Bob's, I told her the fish tastes so good and so much better that don't cover it up. And so she's just using simple, butter and garlic and lemon and whatever. And you taste the fish, and it's a remarkable taste, and you don't need a heavy olive tamponade to cover it up.
That's a very good point, Harley. You're right on that one, for sure.
So I'm assuming that swordfish, because it's thicker, you have to cook that differently.
Swordfish, it's actually pretty easy to cook that because it's real firm, almost like a steak. You could grill swordfish really well. It holds up well. You don't want to use a super flaky fish, and swordfish is not. So that grills well. You can pan sear it. You can even bake it. So there's a lot of ways to cook that one.
And it's interesting. Swordfish comes. I remember the first time I had swordfish was at Port St. Louis, and it came to the table. It looked like a piece of pie. I mean, it was so thick, and it truly the first time I ever had it, and it's very, very meaty. And even when we get it from Bob's, they cut it differently. Sometimes it'll be a thinner piece. Sometimes it'll be a thicker piece. So I guess you have to cook it accordingly.
Okay. And Scott, what types of food do you find people have the most trouble with cooking and why? And then there's a
Uh,
second. Go ahead.
okay. I think people have the most trouble probably with the simple things like the chicken. I think people tend to overcook that. Doesn't, cook quite as done as most people do. So I would say the chicken. Sure.
How long do you recommend then? Or does it depend on?
It definitely depends whether it's got bones in it, the thickness, the size. There's a lot of variables, but they say 165, and I'm not going to say differently because that's the published temperature it should get to. But I probably come in a little bit lower than that because you're going to have, when you cook, especially something that's fairly thick, you're going to have carryover cooking, which is anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees. So if you cook that to the 165, you really have it about 175, 180. And at that point, it starts to dry out. So that's what I notice the most.
Scott, do you have any favorite go-to restaurants in St. Louis?
I work a lot being a chef, so I don't get out a lot, but everyone that Harley mentioned, I've been to all of them. I have not been to the Lucky Accomplice, but I've eaten Logan's food before at Savage. Excellent. And Harley's right. It changes all the time and it's always exceptional. So there's so many good restaurants. There really is.
And there was a question that isn't swordfish endangered?
Is it endangered? That part I don't know.
I didn't think so. I mean, I think sea bass at least was for a while, maybe still is, but I hadn't heard the swordfish is.
I hadn't either. And what wine do you serve, or what wines do you serve? Maybe the question is, what do you like to serve with? I guess it depends on the dish, what wine you would serve.
They say whites and reds go with certain foods, but it really comes down to the guest. It's what you prefer. There's no real rules to that. Some do accent foods better, but again, ultimately it's the guest's perception what they like.
Although I will tell you that if you go, we were recently in Chicago to pick up a puppy, and we ate at a restaurant there called Sepia, which was wonderful. And whenever we get a chance, we'll get the wine pairings. And if there's somebody that knows what they're doing, and they pair the wines appropriately with the dishes, it does make a difference. I mean, they really went well with the food we ate.
We have a question from Barbara Barnholtz. Harley, what is your favorite mushroom sauce for steak?
What is my favorite mushroom sauce for steak? Trying to think. I don't know that I have mushroom sauce on
Use that.
steaks a whole lot. So what's Barbara's?
Barbara, you can unmute if you want. And
I have a mushroom sauce for steak and tenderloin, and it involves butter and wine and all kinds of yummy things. But I thought maybe there was one along the way, one restaurant from your lost tables that may have had one that you really enjoyed.
Trying to think of it, if there was one. I can't think of. Scott, can you think of a mushroom sauce that special?
Not on your website, but I think my preference would be like just a sauteed mushroom. Mushrooms are so flavorful as is. I don't know that I would necessarily, maybe just accent them with a little bit of wine, butter, garlic, things like that. But I prefer sauteed. I like lighter foods. I'm not a big fan of the heavy sauces.
not either.
I agree. Let what's underneath shine through.
Right.
And then, so Susan and I typically ask these questions of our guests. And I know Harley said that he had already been asked these questions the last time he visited us. So Scott, the two questions that we ask our guests are, one, how do you feel you made a difference in the world?
Okay. How have I made a difference? So the company I work with, we feed children. Primarily, we operate school food service. And bringing healthy, nutritious food to their lives is probably my biggest impact. Sometimes we don't get that at home. Sometimes we can't get that at home. So that's something I'm proud of, you know, that we're able to do every day.
That's exceptional that you do
I'll
that.
second that. That's really neat what he does, because, you know, I remember my kids were getting lunch at school and they were served junk, pizzas and French fries, and, you know, and Scott's serving them tasty, healthy food. And I think that's terrific.
I do too. So thank you for doing that. And if anyone else has any questions, you can unmute, you can ask them, and then we will go to our poll. I'll give it a second if anyone has anything else to ask. Okay, we'll go to our poll really quickly and then we will conclude. I don't know if you and Scott and Harley see these.
I see it.
Not that you have to take it, I'm just saying. So thank you both so much for being here. And to show our appreciation, we will be giving you a sponsorship for our back to school store for a child. And we are taking, oh, I did get a quick question. Best and easy way to prepare baked salmon. And then I'll tell you about the next coffee talk.
Okay, best, easiest way to prepare baked salmon. You want to brush it with olive oil, lightly salted, and you could put pepper on it if you want. Keep this in mind. Salt enhances flavors, pepper changes it. So if you want to just go on more natural, I would just use salt, and I always use kosher salt. I think it tastes better. 400 degrees, depending on the cut of the fish, how thick it is, anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes. And that's it.
That's it? That's so easy.
Yeah, it really is. You can put
thank
the lemon and things like that on at the end. You don't want to, in my opinion, if I was doing just baked salmon, and I would put the lemon on at the end. And again, that just kind of freshens it up, makes it a lighter dish.
Thank you. And Susan and I are taking a break. We're going on vacation the month of August. So be sure to come back next month, September 28th. We are going to have Ellen Futterman. She is the editor of the St. Louis Jewish Light and formerly with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. So hopefully you will all join us again after we take a month off. And there was one more question. Do you flip the salmon over during baking? Sorry, I want to get in all the questions.
Okay. When you're baking the fish, you do not flip it.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
In a skillet, you would flip it, but if you're baking it, no.
Okay.
Skin side down, unless you want a crispy, well, crispy skin would be done in a skillet, but the skin side down, even if it's removed, the side that the skin was on. So you want that inner part facing up.
Can you eat the skin?
Yes.
Really?
Excellent, actually. In crispy salmon skin is excellent, I should say.
I didn't think you could eat the skin.
You can, absolutely.
Skin's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I always have I won't touch it. My husband he cuts it off.
Right. Well, most people do probably. If you bake it with the skin down, you'll notice that the skin sticks to your baking sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But salmon skin pulls off really easy. But if you do it skin side down in a skillet, really hot, olive oil, a little bit of butter in that, it's excellent. It really is. And then you would serve it with the skin side up. And it is very edible and good.
That's good to know. I did not know that. So thank you both very much. We appreciate it. And we appreciate everyone being here today. I hope you have a good day.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. We enjoyed it.
And have a good vacation, Scott.
Oh, thank you.